watching Republic.
Hi there, very good noon and welcome to Live Report in which we set the agenda for the day with three big stories panning out. The biggest one, of course, today is the signing of the historic mother of all deals between India and the European Union that's going to bring together 2 billion people and 1/4 of global GDP. That's going to be our focus. Delegation level talks are on announcement very soon. Let's begin with the headlines. EU delegation meets Prime Minister Modi at the Hyderabad House in Delhi. Talks on joint statement on historic deal next.
कल ही भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच एक बहुत बड़ा एग्रीमेंट हुआ है। साथियों, इस ट्रेड डील से भारत में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को तो बल मिलेगा ही, साथ ही सर्विसेज से जुड़े सेक्टर का भी और अधिक विस्तार होगा।
Prime Minister Modi lauds India EU FTA, says deal will boost confidence of global investors in India. Congress leader Shakil Ahmed claims threat to his life a day after he called out senior party leadership and specifically Rahul Gandhi darpok. Battleground Tamil Nadu heats up. DMK says Congress has no standing in a state without Stalin government. Indigo, Air India's SpiceJet push for pilot duties, seek relaxation from government over FDTL pilot norms. And ahead of the budget session, the government convenes an all-party meeting taking place as we speak. All right, friends, let's begin with the big one, which is the India and the European Union. They have successfully concluded nearly 2 decades of negotiations on a long-pending comprehensive free trade agreement, signing ceremony of which is going to take place in a while from now. As we speak, delegation-level talks are going on between India and the EU leadership. Remember, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa have been in New Delhi since day before yesterday. They were special guests or the chief guests at the Republic Day parade. In the morning, we had them visiting the Rajghat as part of the state visit ceremonials. And now the delegation level talks going on at the Hyderabad House. The free trade agreement, of course, the talks for it began in 2007. Hit a stalemate and deadlock in 2013 during the UPA years, were picked up again in 2022, and now we are close to signing of that historic agreement. The deal, described as the mother of all trade deals, is going to be going through legal vetting on both the sides by the Law Ministry here in India and the Commerce Ministry, and then, of course, on the European Union side by their respective mechanisms. And then it has to be ratified first by the European Union and then by the member states. Then, of course, the coming into effect of the trade deal, which is expected sometime in 2027. That's the timeline. From now till the time that it actually operationalizes would be 2027, but it's coming together of ambition on global trade between India and the European Union. Talks for which are going on. Let's listen to Prime Minister's soundbite. He was speaking at the India Energy Week earlier in a couple of hours back. And there he spoke about the significance of the India-EU FTA. Listen to him.
Friends, अपनी बात आगे बढ़ाने से पहले मैं एक बड़े डेवलपमेंट की चर्चा करना चाहूंगा। कल ही भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच एक बहुत बड़ा एग्रीमेंट हुआ है। दुनिया में लोग इसकी चर्चा मदर ऑफ ऑल डील्स के रूप में कर रहे हैं। ये समझौता भारत के 140 करोड़ लोगों और यूरोपीय देशों के करोड़ों लोगों के लिए बहुत बड़े अवसर लेकर आया है। ये दुनिया की दो बड़ी इकोनॉमीज के बीच तालमेल का एक शानदार उदाहरण बना है। ये समझौता ग्लोबल जीडीपी के करीब 25% और ग्लोबल ट्रेड के करीब 1/3 हिस्से को रिप्रेजेंट करता है। ये समझौता ट्रेड के साथ साथ डेमोक्रेसी और रूल ऑफ लॉ के प्रति हमारे शेयर्ड कमिटमेंट को भी सशक्त करता है। साथियों, ईयू के साथ हुआ ये फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट ब्रिटेन और एप्टा समझौतों को भी कॉम्प्लीमेंट करेगा। इससे ट्रेड और ग्लोबल सप्लाई चेन दोनों को मजबूती मिलेगी। मैं भारत के नौजवानों को, सभी देशवासियों को इसके लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। मैं टेक्सटाइल, जेम्स एंड ज्वेलरी, लेदर एंड शूज ऐसे हर सेक्टर से जुड़े साथियों को भी बधाई देता हूं। ये समझौता आपके लिए बहुत सहायक सिद्ध होगा। साथियों, इस ट्रेड डील से भारत में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को तो बल मिलेगा ही, साथ ही सर्विसेज से जुड़े सेक्टर का भी और अधिक विस्तार होगा। ये फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट दुनिया के हर बिजनेस, हर इन्वेस्टर के लिए भारत पर कॉन्फिडेंस को और मजबूत करेगा।
Well, that was Prime Minister underscoring the significance of the India-EU trade deal. Manju Seth, former diplomat, joins us live on this broadcast. Very good morning to you, ma'am. And the first up, while we understand why it's being called the mother of all deals, given the numbers, both in terms of population covered and the GDP, etc., I was going through, looking at the pictures coming in from Hyderabad, the house, the kind of exuberance that was there in the body language of the leaders, both Prime Minister Modi and the EU chiefs, Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa. What are your takeaways in terms of the geopolitical messaging out of New Delhi today?
Very rightly, you mentioned that there has been real exuberance and on both sides. And I think this was all sort of given a push, given the US's current leadership, which has been, treating friends and foes alike, and has targeted, everyone, Europe and India, and amongst others. And I think this messaging is, and we saw that this FTA has been in the works for almost 2 decades, as you said. And the fact that it has been concluded very quickly with for mutual benefit and mutual agreement, it has given a clear message that, yes, the two largest, Europe as the largest, EU as the largest democracy as a group, and India as the largest democracy. They are the two largest democracies coming together. And as you very rightly mentioned, that the numbers are huge. Billion people, as it's being spoken about. And so I think all this together has made this deal very important for India as well, because both India and the EU have been badly impacted by the tariffs imposed including the punitive tariffs. Even today, again, the US has given a statement that both EU and EU is funding the war against itself and things like that. So they've been very negative, and of course it's a matter of concern for them. But they are continuously targeting and coming up with these statements against India, against the European Union as well, and individual countries as well. We saw how he was quite. I think US has been quite disrespectful also to its allies, which is a little sad. That when you have, if you have to be respectful, you have to understand what the other person's concerns are, which they have totally not done. And so the India and EU ties at this time are, given the geopolitical flux, geopolitical churn that is taking place, and the way things have panned out in all countries around the world, are in a difficult situation. But I think China is at the moment in a better position as compared to all the other countries. And India and EU together, I think, will make an impact. The rules-based order has gone been thrown out of the window. So now resetting and getting back to getting the world back on a more rules-based order system, I think will be mutually beneficial and beneficial for the world as well.
Absolutely. In fact, the geopolitical messaging, really, apart from the geo-economic one, is about preserving the rules-based order and sending across a message to the United States that they cannot play around with something built so painstakingly over the last 7 decades and more. Thank you so much, Ambassador Nath, for joining us with that perspective. And we come back to it when the joint statements happen between India and the EU leadership at around 1:15 p.m. from the Hyderabad House. But for now, moving on to another important agenda-setting story, which is like it happens every year in Bihar and Bengal. This time too, we have seen stone pelting incidents reported between two communities from Darbhanga district of Bihar, with tensions flaring up again following a dispute during Saraswati Puja idol immersion. In Jayantinagar village of Darbhanga, a disagreement over playing DJ music, again like it happens every year during the immersion, allegedly linked to objections over a religious chant, escalated into clashes after initially subsiding, leading to stone pelting. In a separate but related incident in Hami village under Gadi police station of Khaira block, again in Darbhanga district, a dispute between members of the Turi and Tanti communities during idol immersion turned violent. So again, not when you say two communities, it's not necessarily Hindu-Muslim, it's within the same communities also. This time again, stone pelting and arson was reported, and some arson of thatched homes happened. Let's listen to some of those sound bites giving the setting of the violence that took place. Then we'll have Prakash live from Patna.
कल सरस्वती पूजा था, हम लोग भसाने के लिए विदा हुए और यहाँ से लेकर हम गए तो वो डीजे बज रहा था, जय श्री राम जय श्री राम बज रहा था। वहाँ बीच में कर लिया लफड़ा, हम लोग को साथ डीजे वाला पर डीजे पर चढ़ गया था 4 लड़का और गाली देने लगा, तो हम लोग उससे क्षमा मांग के फिर वहाँ से हम लौटा लिए। कल सरस्वती पूजा था, हम लोग भसाने के लिए विदा हुए और यहाँ से लेकर हम गए तो वो डीजे बज रहा था, जय श्री राम जय श्री राम बज रहा था। वहाँ बीच में कर लिया लफड़ा, हम लोग को साथ डीजे वाला पर डीजे पर चढ़ गया था 4 लड़का और गाली देने लगा, तो हम लोग उससे क्षमा मांग के फिर वहाँ से हम लौटा लिए।
All right, so that really sets the context of the kind of ego clash led to a stone pelting clash, led to arson in Bihar, Darbhanga district of Bihar. These are pictures from last evening. And in fact, 4 unrelated incidents of targeting of the Saraswati Puja processions have been reported. And for more details on this story, we have Shivam joining us live from the newsroom. Shivam, it keeps happening every year, the Saraswati Puja processions targeted, but this time it seems like not exactly between, when you say two communities, just between Hindu and Muslim, it's sometimes the Turi and Tanti community coming together, so it seems more like local factors playing out in these clashes.
Definitely, it was between the Turi and Tanti communities. This was happening because there was an idol immersion procession which was passing through the Tuli Tora area and towards the Kali temple. Now the dispute that escalated from a heated argument. It started from a heated argument and it continued, and it led to a stone pelting from both the sides. Now both the sides started pelting stones on each other, and during the clash a heap of hay was also set on fire. As you can see, the visuals also we are showing on the television screen. It is alleged that the thatched house was also burned down. So this is the latest that we are getting. It was because of an altercation and because of a dispute. It was because of the idol immersion, because yesterday was the idol immersion day for Saraswati Puja yesterday. This is a violent clash that has been reported in Harni village and under the Gadi police station in Khaira block of the district. Now, during the immersion of Saraswati Puja idols, this happened, and this involved stone pelting, arson, and also creating a chaotic environment, atmosphere in the entire village. Everybody was worried because nobody knew till how long this will go on, and the escalation point could even further go on. Now, according to information, it was because an argument that broke out between the people of the Turi and Tanti communities, Hindus, during the Saraswati Puja idol immersion. It quickly escalated to stone pelting incident. A pile of hay was also set on fire, and that it was a thatched house was also set ablaze. And after that, the villagers called the police. They dialed 112, and the police reacted. And the station in charge, along with police officers, he reached the spot and tried to bring the situation under control. Now, the police took swift action, and a total of 5 people were detained from both the sides. So many people have been detained also. Police brought the situation under control, but it could have escalated into a more serious deteriorating situation also. And the police quickly responded. That's a good part here. And seeing the situation, the police had to intervene. The villagers say that a day earlier, that is on January 25th, there was a minor altercation between the two sides. So it was a continuation of the escalation, the altercation and the tussle and between the two sides during the idol immersion of Turi Tola, and the dispute continued.
All right. Thank you so much, Shivam, with those details. And we move to the third story. Big one again, concerns people and their safety when they are flying. All major airlines, Air India, Indigo, SpiceJet included, accounting for roughly 90% plus of air traffic. They have sought relaxation from the Government of India and the Ministry of Civil Aviation over the FDTL pilot norms. FDTL stands for Flight Duty Time Limitation. These norms had kicked in the month of November last year. And according to them, the pilots are supposed to work only for a certain number of hours, and then they have to have a gap, they have to have a rest period, and then they can go to their next round of duty. And that sort of put constraints or limitations on the airlines in terms of managing the pilot rosters. They were not willing to hire. In fact, that's what exactly led to the Indigo crisis in the month of November, and subsequently a dominoes over other airlines. Now they have come together and said that maybe they cannot sustain the FDTL norms and that they need relaxation from the government. It's surprising that after a time lag of almost 3 months, after having consented to the government that they would do something about this, after the government really cracked the whip in the backdrop of the Indigo developments of November and December, yet the airlines have really come together sort of in a cartel and suggesting there that they are together on this and they want to force the government and the DGCA to pull back from these guidelines. The FDTL is flight duty time limitation, and this puts constraints on the utilization of pilots. Shawan is going to be joining us live from the newsroom for more on this, or maybe Harsha on the phone. And we are also going to have pilots' view from what they think about this, because remember, ultimately it's about flyer safety, than anything else. If the pilots are taken off the FDTL norms, then they are working under that much more stress of deadlines. Captain C.S. Randhawa is also going to join us. He is president of the Pilots Association, but I believe before that we have Shawan joining us live from the newsroom for more on this. Shawan, it seems that these airlines have really come together like a cartel and are trying to force the DGCA to relax the FDTL guidelines. I mean, it's back to square one from the Indigo stalemate of November, December.
Well, in fact, what was seen as an organic kind of a protest that was actually taking place, it seems all of this has been manufactured. Going back to the Indigo crisis, which essentially indicates that Indigo was basically waiting on this because they essentially wanted these norms to be changed. Now, what are these norms that we're talking about, Abhishek? This basically allows more rest period that is given to the pilots, which essentially means that the airlines will have to rework their entire rostering process, which also means that as far as flight operations, night flight operations are concerned, there too there would be considerable amount of changes to be brought in. So for airlines which have been perhaps operating on just profit as their motto, it becomes even more difficult for them because somewhere down the line they have to understand the human aspect of flight operations. The very fact that pilots have time and again basically complained about the fact that these are inhuman hours that they have essentially been working on. That is the reason why these norms were brought in. Now it seems that not just Indigo, the other airlines have also come together making this request that these norms are to be changed so that the flight operations are not basically hampered. They've been given multiple reasons for it. One, in terms of the profits that they are essentially making right now, which seems to have taken a hit primarily because there have been change in the routes that they are operating in, particularly international flights where the routes have been altered. And that is the reason why, remember Abhishek, one of the primary concerns that the airlines have shown is the fact that because of changes that have come in because of international routes, their flight operations have taken a massive hit. And that is the reason why they believe that these norms would further aggravate their entire operation process. And that is the reason why they've made this kind of a plea before the DGCA. In the past, remember, the DGCA has been extremely lenient. It remains to be seen whether at all the Federation, the Pilot Association would be accepting this because they have been up in arms against this bulldozing that the airlines have essentially done.
Yes, Shawan, in fact, we have Captain C.S. Randhawa now joining us to present us the pilot's point of view. Remember, ultimately it's about flyer safety, Captain Randhawa, but before that, it's about the stress that pilots really go through, and in the backdrop of the recent certain incidents, including the AI-171 crash, you think the airlines are, with the cartel that they have formed, sort of blackmailing the DGCA? I mean, does it really help ultimately the aviation sector in any manner?
You see, first and foremost thing, we've been stressing upon one thing, that these regulations are made by the government of India. And they have been made as per the keeping in mind whatever the international other regulatory bodies make. And this was the first CR which was exceptionally well made by the DGCA, keeping in mind the Naseem Zaidi committee report which was given in 2011. So that had addressed everything in totality and a good CR came up. Now, it is very, very, difficult to understand that the government of India has made a regulation or a law, and the pilots are trying to push it for implementation. It's a very, very, it's a thing that the government should understand, that it is for safety, and for safety cannot be compromised. They're compromising safety left, right, and center. We have given even a contempt of court case when the Indigo got the dispensation in December. Now, the point of issue is that when we talk about safety, then we have to insist that this is not to be played around by the airlines. It is for safety. Tomorrow, one accident happens, then what is going to happen to the Indian skies? Everyone is going to be scared of flying in India. People don't realize it. And are they waiting for an accident to happen? We have been stressing this point over and over and over again, but they don't seem to understand. Again, we'll have to knock the doors of the court. Now, I had, on 2 parliamentary committees, I had given a full rundown that what is the pilot to aircraft ratio, right? All these airlines, including Indigo, they're surplus on pilots. So what are they cribbing about? I have got the report. I can send it to Republic TV that they are surplus on pilots.
So they are surplus on
holding
pilots.
the
I mean, that's a very interesting conversation. Captain Randhawa, we will have to come back to it. I think we have to take a short break, but we will definitely come back to this conversation of how the airlines are sort of, with the kind of clout that they have, are easily in a situation where they seem to be manipulating the government. That's really what comes out of this conversation that we had with Shravan and Captain Randhawa. On that note, we're slipping a short break. Coming up on the other side, the threat that former Congress leader Shakil Ahmed claims to have to his life a day after he called out senior party leadership, including Rahul Gandhi, Darpok. We're coming back on the other side of a short break.